Well, we need to talk about money, and in this case, Saudi Arabia money, which this time of the year can be so sweet, especially if you are a comedian, because there was a comedy festival in Riyadh, and all these American comedians went there, and well, they had a good time. And that should be the end of the video. If it was not that two of the most prominent comedians in recent years, like Bill Burr and Dave Chapelle, began saying that, oh, it is great to be here, especially because back in the United States, they said this, you don't have real free speech. Oh, there's all these problems with free speech. I mean, I'm going to read this. I'm gonna read the quote from Dave Chapelle. I mean, I've always enjoyed Dave Chapelle. I remember his skit about Trump's debate and the skit about Juicy Smollett. That thing is just it's comedy perfection. But sadly, I always told you time and time again, you have to put aside your idols at some point. It is always, no matter what. I want to say a couple words about that at the end. But Dave Chapelle criticized the status of free speech in the United States while on stage at the Riyadh Comedy Festival in Saudi Arabia. He said he feared returning to the U.S., stating, "They are going to do something to me so that I can't say what I want to say." Right now in America, this is a quote from Dave Chapelle, they say that if you talk about Charlie Kirk, that you'll get canceled. I don't know if that's true, but I'm gonna find out. It's easier to talk here in Saudi Arabia than it is in America. I mean, that is the most hypocritical thing I have heard in a while. And I cover Prince Harry like every month. And this guy just blew Prince Harry out of the water. Because you can get literally executed in Saudi Arabia from just saying the wrong thing, from talking bad about the royal family there, or talking about the government, or criticizing the government. So many ways you can literally get killed, executed, deleted from existence. I mean, something that doesn't happen in the United States. But at least not legally, but that is the legal part in Saudi Arabia. That is how they roll with it. So how come these people are so hypocrites, such hypocrites? It's like Bill Burr. Bill Burr defends performing at the Riyadh Comedy Festival, saying it was one of the top 3 experiences I've had. You think everybody's going to be screaming death to America and they're going to have like effing machetes and want to chop my head off because this is what I've been fed about that part of the world? No, you don't pass. If you have half a brain and a modest access to the internet, you can tell what is going on and what is not going on in each of these countries on the Middle East, because there are different countries and each one of them has, let's say, their own quirks. It was great to experience that part of the world and to be a part of the first comedy festival over there in Saudi Arabia. The royals loved the show. Everyone was happy. The people that were doing the festival were thrilled. And I guess that he was happy because he got the bag. But you remember that Bill Burr was the one who said he demands billionaires be put down like effing rabid dogs. Burr has attacked people on both sides of the political aisle. But yeah, he is against billionaires. Now, my question is, how many people in the Saudi Arabia royal family are billionaires? How many Saudis are billionaires? Did he make this joke? Did he say this joke right there? I don't think so, right? Because there were some terms and conditions, and thanks to Atsuko Comedy, all right, who leaked this. For your information, there are more of us that said no to the Riyadh Comedy Festival in Saudi Arabia. Here's the offer I got back in July. Hi, team. For our conversation attached and below, please find the offer Atsuko to perform at the inaugural Riyadh Comedy Festival. Right. You perform for an audience of 600 to 900 people. You would do it for 60 to 75 minutes. All right. The money is coming straight from the crown prince, who actively executed journalists, people with non-lethal drug offenses, bloggers, etc. without due process. A lot of the "you can't say anything anymore" comedians are doing the festival, and they had to adhere to censorship rules about the types of jokes they can make. So when they agreed to go to the Riyadh Comedy Festival, they had to agree to these terms. Again, I want to state one thing. I want to be clear, very clear about this thing. There are many ways that you can enjoy, literally enjoy, Saudi Arabia. All right? Not all the Middle East countries are the same. You can actually go to Saudi Arabia, have a good time. And in their terms, of course, you have to know what to do and what not to do. That is their prerogative. And I think that is, as I've said, if you are a guest in a country, you should obey their law. But one thing is that, right, having a great time in Saudi Arabia, obeying the law. And another thing is claiming that your free speech is in danger in the United States while being in Saudi Arabia, in which you can get executed for saying the wrong thing. That's the problem I have with not going to Saudi Arabia. You can go to Saudi Arabia. There's no problem. You can go to this comedy show, but the problem is that in principle, a comedian, the gist of a comedian is to tell the truth, because that's how the punchlines only come from the truth. I mean, I have liked humor for all my life. Right? I have put humor in everything that I've done, and I think humor always comes from telling the truth. The content restrictions. There were content restrictions. Artists shall not prepare or perform any material that may be considered to degrade the fame or bring into public disrepute, contempt, scandal, embarrassment, or ridicule the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, including its leadership, public figures, culture, or people, the Saudi royal family, legal system, or government, or any religion, religious tradition, religious figure, or religious practice whatsoever of any religion, any of that. Now, I think that's in some ways, this is just common sense, right? Maybe it's like you get invited to Japan Comedy Festival, all right? And you get paid and you get treated great, and you get a tour of Japan and everything and all the stuff. And for some reason, you're so, I don't know, blockhead that you make the jokes about Japan, I don't know, in an offensive way, when you could joke about so much stuff. Maybe you can joke about your experience as a gaijin or a foreigner in Japan. You can do that. But under any circumstance, it would be a bad idea, right? But in this case, you have to sign a contract that explicitly forbids you from saying the wrong thing. So that essentially makes you the greatest hypocrite when you say, I'm going to be able to say in Saudi Arabia the things I cannot say in the United States. So this is a big letdown especially from Dave Chapelle. I liked Bill Burr's jokes, so many of Bill Burr's jokes in the past, but at some point I said, no, I was so over these people. But Chapelle, again, not surprised. At some point you learn how to deal with it. After Tarantino, I really don't care, okay? Nice what you create, nice how you entertain us, but the moment that you open your mouth to say something that could be remotely close to common sense, you fail miserably, and that is a no-no in my book. But again, Steve Factor says, every one of these comics surrender their moral high ground to us. They could still be funny, but the minute they start to lecture on or have an opinion on social justice, we have the moral high ground to tell them to shut the F up. The Riyadh Comedy Festival has nothing to do with comedy, as the firing of Tim J. Dillon from the show demonstrates this was a purchase of influence and silence from the most popular American voices, not just with their borders, but also ours. Again, there's a lot of politics involved in here. I've seen Chapelle like 4 or 5 times. Despite having millions, I've been able to print money by showing up anywhere to do a show. He went to the 9/11 guys and made fun of our free speech there. What a POS. Yeah, again, you could have gone there, but why would you say that about America? This is something that I don't understand. Like other comedians at the event who said they felt muscled by American political correctness, Mr. Chapelle reveled in making uncouth jokes in Saudi Arabia. Yet he overlooked an 8-year crackdown that has led to many of the country's writers, business people, activists, clerics, and social media influencers being arrested. The irony was not lost on the Saudi audience, who marveled at the idea of watching political satire skewering the United States in the once famously austere Islamic society. Because, yeah, it's basically making fun of the United States, because that's what you can do. I think that you can make fun of yourself, because if you're a comedian, that is always a topic that could be a nice topic for any audience, because, well, you're making fun about yourself and your ignorance. But I think that is too much for this ego-inflated people. But I would like to know what do you think about this in the comments. My name is Jesus Enrique Rosas. I'm the Bad Language Guy. Much love and bliss.